Henry Royce was born in 1863 in a small village in England. His family was not rich. In fact, they were very poor. His father had a small flour mill business, but it failed. Henry was only 4 years old when everything changed. His family had no money, no food, and no future. They had to leave their comfortable home and move to the streets. For a young child, life became very hard, very fast. The days were cold, the nights were long, and there was no end to their problems. But things got even worse. When Henry turned 9, his father passed away. It was a sudden and deep loss. His mother was left alone with no income and several children. She had to take up work as a housemaid, cleaning other people's homes just to survive. Henry wanted to help her. He was still a boy, but his heart was full of responsibility. He started delivering newspapers in the early morning hours. He walked long distances with cold hands and an empty stomach. Every coin he earned, he gave to his mother. That was how Henry learned the value of work. His childhood was filled with struggle, not games. He did not play, he did not laugh much, but he never complained. He knew he had to be strong. Even as a child, Henry was curious. He liked to look at machines. He would stop on the street just to watch a cart move or a worker fix something. He asked questions. He stared at gears and levers. He wondered how things worked, but he had no books. He had no toys. He had no school. His family could not afford it. So Henry learned from the world around him. He watched, he listened, and he never gave up. When he turned 14, something big happened. One of his aunts saw how serious and smart he was. She believed that Henry deserved a chance. She helped him get a job as an apprentice at the Great Northern Railway Company. It was a factory where engines and machines were built. Henry's job was small. He cleaned. He carried tools. He watched the older workers, but inside his heart, he felt excited. For the first time in his life, he was in a place full of machines, gears, smoke, and tools. He was learning real skills, and he was happy. Henry worked day and night. He was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. He didn't just work, he also read. He borrowed books on math, carpentry, and electricity. He studied by candlelight, often falling asleep with a book in his hand. In 3 years, Henry learned so much. He became good at carpentry. He understood how machines worked. And most importantly, he became deeply interested in electricity, which was new and exciting at that time. Henry did not just want to work on machines, he wanted to improve them. At the age of 17, Henry became a skilled mechanic. He could now fix complex equipment. People at the factory began to notice him. They said, "This boy is different. He is not just a worker, he is an inventor." But even then, Henry stayed humble. He kept working, kept learning, and kept dreaming. He had no college degree, no rich family, and no one to help him. But he had something more powerful: the will to succeed. A few years later, Henry got a job at a company called Maxim Western. It was a small company that made electrical devices. Henry was 21 by then. He was doing well, but the company was not. Due to financial problems, Maxim Western was going to shut down. Henry was offered jobs at other companies. He could have taken one and lived a safe life. But Henry wanted more. He didn't want just a job. He wanted to build something of his own, something big, something that the world had never seen before. With only 20 pounds in savings and a heart full of hope, Henry started his own company. It was called F.H. Rayse and Company. He opened a tiny office in Manchester. There were no workers, no big machines, and no customers. Just Henry and his dream. Soon he invited his friend Ernest Claremont to join as a partner. They both started doing whatever work they could find. They repaired sewing machines, did small electrical fittings, and even cleaned up old machines for others. The money was little, but the experience was big. Henry began to notice something. He saw that people were starting to use more electrical products. Homes were using lights, bells, and switches. Offices were using machines and wires. Henry understood the market. He started building electrical parts like bulb holders, doorbells, and arc lamps. His products were strong, simple, and reliable. Slowly, people started to trust his work. Orders started coming in. The company was finally growing. By the year 1900, Henry's company had reached a big milestone. Their yearly sales had crossed 20,000 pounds. That was a huge amount at that time. Henry was no longer poor. He had a small family. He was planning to build a bigger factory. His dream was taking shape. The boy who once delivered newspapers was now running a successful business. People respected him. But just when everything seemed perfect, a new problem appeared. In 1901, big companies from Germany and America entered the British market. They were selling electrical products at cheaper prices. Customers were leaving local companies. Henry's sales dropped sharply. His business started losing money. Workers had to be let go. Bills began to pile up. Henry felt hopeless. Years of hard work were falling apart. And this time, it affected not just his work, but also his health. He became physically weak. His body was tired. His mind was heavy. He could not sleep. He could not smile. His doctor gave him some advice. You need rest and fresh air. You need to travel and relax. You must take care of your health, or you will not survive. The doctor told Henry to take a short vacation and maybe buy a car so that he could travel more comfortably. Henry had never thought of buying a car before. It felt strange. But he agreed. He bought a small French-made car called Decauville. He hoped it would bring him some peace. But the car was terrible. It made a lot of noise. The brakes didn't work well. It overheated quickly. For someone like Henry who believed in perfection, this was unacceptable. He could not stop himself. He opened the car's parts. He studied the engine. And then he improved it. He didn't just fix the car, he redesigned it. He made it smoother, quieter, and more efficient. This small project made Henry excited again. He thought, if I can improve a car, maybe I can build one from scratch. The idea was born. Why not build the best car in the world? This was the beginning of a new dream. Henry gathered a small team. They worked in his workshop day and night. He designed a car with a 10-horsepower engine and 2 cylinders. Every part was tested. Every screw was placed carefully. The car had to be silent. It had to be strong. It had to be better than anything else on the road. In early 1904, the car was ready for a road test. It ran perfectly. It traveled 50 kilometers without any problems. Henry was proud. He had built something world class, but he knew that making a great car was not enough. He needed someone who could sell it to the world. And that is when a man named Charles Rolls entered the story. Chapter 2. The cold wind blew against Henry's face as he walked home from work. His boots were old, the soles nearly worn through. Each step made a quiet crunch on the gravel road. He was tired. His back ached from bending over machines all day, but he didn't complain. He had learned that complaining didn't change anything. He just kept going. Every morning he woke up before the sun. He worked long hours. He earned little, but he saved every penny he could. While other boys his age spent money on drinks or games, Henry kept his coins safe in a small wooden box hidden under his bed. He had a dream that burned in his heart every single day. Henry Rayse was no longer a boy. He was becoming a man. But the world had not become any kinder. Life was still hard. There were days when he had nothing to eat except dry bread. Some nights he went to sleep hungry, but he reminded himself of what his father once told him before dying. If you want a better life, you must build it yourself. Those words stayed with Henry. They were like a map in the dark. He believed in them with all his heart. He worked for a company that made electric tools. It wasn't a big company, but they gave him a chance to learn. He was grateful. Every tool he repaired, every motor he cleaned, every machine he touched, he treated it like it was his own. He learned quickly. He asked questions. He read books. When others took breaks, Henry studied manuals. When others wasted time, he practiced with broken machines. He wanted to be better. He wanted to be the best. One evening, as the factory closed and the workers walked home, Henry stayed behind. He stood alone in the workshop holding a small motor in his hands. He had an idea. It was just a thought at first, like a spark in the dark. But it grew. "What if I can make my own machine?" he whispered. The idea scared him. He had no money, no partner, no name. But still, the idea excited him. It gave him hope. It gave him purpose. Weeks passed, then months. Henry started working on small machines at home. He bought old parts from junkyards. He fixed them, cleaned them, made them work again. He used his savings to buy tools. Sometimes he went without food just to buy metal or wires. His mother worried. "Henry, you must rest," she said, but he just smiled. "I will rest when I build something great," he replied. She didn't understand his dream, but she saw the fire in his eyes. Soon people in the neighborhood started noticing. They came to him with broken tools, clocks, even bicycles. Henry repaired them all. He didn't charge much. Sometimes he didn't charge anything. He just wanted to learn more. Every broken object was a new lesson. Every problem was a challenge. And Henry loved solving problems. By the age of 21, Henry Rayse had gained a reputation as a smart, hard-working engineer. But deep inside, he knew he hadn't started yet. He didn't just want to fix things. He wanted to create. He wanted to design machines that could change lives. His mind was full of ideas. His hands were ready. But his pocket was still empty. That's when he made a bold decision. He left his job and started his own tiny business. It was a brave move. He had no big factory, just a small room with a bench, a few tools, and his dreams. He called it F.H. Royce and Company. He started by making small electrical items, doorbells, lamps, and dynamos. He worked alone. He cleaned the floor. He wrote the orders. He packed the items. He did everything by himself. It was hard, but he was happy. Every product he made carried his pride. The years between 1894 and 1900 were tough. The business barely survived. Some months there were no orders. Some days he thought of giving up. But he never did. Instead, he pushed harder. He believed in quality. He believed that even a small item must be made with care. He believed that if he worked with honesty and heart, success would come. And then in the early 1900s, he discovered something that changed everything. Cars. The first time he saw one, his heart raced. It wasn't just a machine, it was a miracle. The car moved without horses. It had power. It had beauty. Henry stood in silence as it passed by, dust rising behind it. His eyes followed it like a boy watching a shooting star. One day, he thought, I will make one of those. But making a car was no small thing. It needed knowledge, tools, and money. He had only one of those, knowledge. But that was enough to start. He bought a second-hand French car. It was noisy and slow. It broke down often, but Henry didn't mind. He studied it. He opened every part. He drew sketches. He tested improvements. He worked day and night. Finally, he built his own version. It was smaller, lighter, and quieter. He drove it on the streets of Manchester. People stared. They had never seen such a car before. And Henry smiled. This is just the beginning, he said to himself. That car was called the Rayse 10. It was not perfect, but it was better than many others. It was strong. It was smooth. And it was built with love. Henry believed in it, but belief alone wasn't enough. He needed someone to help him take it to the world. He needed a partner. A man with business skills, a man with vision. That man would be Charles Rolls. At the time, Charles Rolls was a wealthy businessman and car enthusiast. He came from a very different world. While Henry had grown up in poverty, Rolls had studied at Cambridge. He loved fast cars and airplanes. He even raced cars for fun. He had money, he had connections. But he didn't have what Henry had, the skills to build something extraordinary. When Charles Rolls heard about the Rayse car, he became curious. He asked to meet the man behind it. Their meeting was simple but powerful. Two men from different worlds brought together by a shared dream. Rolls saw the car, he drove it, and he was impressed. This is what Britain needs, he said. A car that is strong, silent, and reliable. Henry nodded. And we can build it, he replied. In 1904, the two men made an agreement. Rolls would sell the cars. Rayse would build them. They would call the car Rolls-Royce. The name was born, but success was still far away. They had to prove themselves. They had to fight against big names from Germany and France. But they were ready. Their first model, the Rolls-Royce 10 horsepower, was a hit. It ran smoothly. It looked elegant. More importantly, it didn't break down. Slowly, people started noticing. The name Rolls-Royce became a symbol of quality, and behind that name was a man who once fixed street lamps and mended broken tools. Henry Royce had arrived, but the journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. Henry didn't stop after the first success. He worked harder. He believed that good was not enough. Take the best that exists, he said, and make it better. That became his life rule. Every new model of Rolls-Royce followed this idea. They were not just cars, they were art. They were poetry in metal. In 1907, the world saw the Silver Ghost. It was called the best car in the world. It could run for miles without stopping. It was quiet. It was smooth. It was powerful. People were amazed. The name Rolls-Royce now stood for perfection. Kings, queens, and businessmen wanted it. And Henry Royce, the poor boy from Peterborough, had built it with his hands. But behind the glory was a man who never forgot his past. Henry still worked long hours. He still studied machines late at night. He still walked through the workshop checking every detail. His health began to fail. His body grew weak, but his mind remained sharp. He knew his mission was bigger than just cars. He wanted to create machines that would last forever. He wanted to inspire others. When World War I began, Rolls-Royce started making engines for planes. Henry worked on them with the same passion. He believed that his engines could help Britain win, and they did. The Rolls-Royce Eagle engine helped many British planes fly higher and farther. Henry had now become more than a car maker. He was a national hero. Chapter 3. The winter of 1882 was cold and harsh. Young Henry Royce was now 18 years old. He worked hard every single day, fixing small machines, repairing electrical tools, and building tiny motors from scrap metal. Life was not easy, but inside his heart, he carried a dream, a big dream that refused to die. Every time he held a tool in his hand, he imagined building something great. Every time he heard the sound of an engine, he imagined building something better. The noise of the world could not silence the whisper of his passion. He had no university degree, he had no rich relatives, but he had something more powerful, belief in himself. He worked as a mechanic at the Electric Light and Power Company in London. The job was tiring and the pay was small, but Henry was different. While other men went home after work, Henry stayed late. He cleaned parts, drew designs, and read books about machines. His small room in Southwark was filled with tools, wires, and books. He had no bed, only a chair and a table. But still he smiled, because every page he read, every bolt he turned, was bringing him one step closer to his dream. He did not want to live a life where he only fixed broken machines. He wanted to build machines that never broke. In those days, electricity was a new invention. Most people didn't even understand how it worked. But Henry was curious. He learned about it faster than anyone else. Soon he became one of the best workers in the company. His manager noticed his work and promoted him. But money was not his goal. He wanted freedom. He wanted to build things his way. So in 1884, at the age of 21, Henry made a bold decision. He left the company. He borrowed £20 from a friend and opened a small workshop in Manchester with his partner, Ernest Claremont. The workshop was tiny, just one room. They had no employees, no clients, and almost no money. but they had a name. They called their company F.H. Royce and Company. It was just the beginning, but Henry felt proud. It was his dream taking its first breath. The company started by making small electrical items, doorbells, lamps, and dynamos. Business was slow at first. They often went without pay. Some days they ate only bread and tea. But Henry didn't give up. He believed that success would come, one small step at a time. Slowly, word began to spread. Customers noticed the quality of Henry's work. His machines never failed. They were silent, strong, and smart. Orders began to come in. Small businesses started buying from them. And within a few years, F.H. Royce and Company became known for its excellence in electrical engineering. But Henry wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. He started thinking about a new kind of machine, one that could move without horses, one that could change the world. Henry had seen a car for the first time in 1902. It was noisy, ugly, and unreliable, but it was powerful. It moved by itself. No need for horses, no need for steam. It ran on petrol. It was the future. Henry was fascinated. He didn't just see a car, he saw a challenge. He knew he could build a better one that was smooth, quiet, and beautiful. So he began working on his first car. He worked day and night. He learned everything from books, magazines, and by taking apart the cars he saw. By 1904, after 2 years of hard work, Henry Royce built his first car, a 2-cylinder motor car. It was simple, elegant, and smooth. When he drove it for the first time, people stopped and stared. It didn't make much noise. It didn't shake. It moved like silk on wheels. Henry's friends were amazed. They knew he had done something special, but the world didn't know his name yet. He needed someone who could take his creation and show it to the rich and powerful. Someone with money, connections, and a love for fine things. That man was Charles Rolls. Charles Rolls came from a rich family. He was educated at Cambridge and had a passion for cars. He owned a dealership in London and sold French and German cars to the English elite. But he was not satisfied with the cars he sold. He wanted something better, something British, something truly special. In May 1904, Charles Rolls met Henry Royce through a mutual friend named Henry Edmonds. That meeting changed history. When Charles saw Henry's car, he was surprised. It was better than anything he had sold before. He asked to test it. After driving it, he smiled and said, "I have never driven a car like this. It is the best car in England." Henry Royce simply nodded. He was a man of few words, but his machine spoke loudly. Charles immediately offered a deal. He would sell every car Royce made. They would use both names, Rolls and Royce. And thus, Rolls-Royce was born. From the start, their partnership was based on respect. Charles believed in Henry's skill, and Henry trusted Charles's business sense. Henry focused on building perfect cars. Charles focused on selling them to the world. Their first car, the Rolls-Royce 10 horsepower, was launched in 1904. It was an instant success. Wealthy people loved it. It was smooth, quiet, and luxurious. It didn't just take people from one place to another. It made them feel proud. orders started pouring in. The factory grew bigger, more workers were hired, but Henry never allowed quality to drop. He checked every single car himself. If something didn't meet his standards, he rejected it. His famous words became the company's philosophy. Whatever is rightly done, however humble, is noble. That idea made Rolls-Royce different from other car makers. They didn't just build cars, they built masterpieces. In 1906, the company launched the Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost. This car changed everything. It was called the best car in the world. It ran so quietly that people said it was like a ghost. The car broke records for speed and reliability. In one test, it ran 14,371 miles without stopping. No car had ever done that before. The name Rolls-Royce became a symbol of luxury, power, and perfection. But success came with challenges. The company had to grow fast. The market was changing. Competitors were rising. And Charles Rolls, the face of the brand, died in a tragic airplane crash in 1910. Henry was heartbroken. He had lost a friend and a partner, but he did not stop. He kept building, kept dreaming, and kept improving. He believed that Charles would have wanted him to continue. The world was changing fast. In 1914, World War I began. The British government asked Rolls-Royce to build airplane engines. Henry accepted the challenge. He had never built engines for planes before. But he studied hard, designed carefully, and created one of the best engines of the war, the Eagle engine. British planes powered by Rolls-Royce engines won many battles in the sky. Soldiers trusted the name. Pilots trusted the engine. Rolls-Royce was no longer just a car company. It was a company that helped protect the nation. After the war, the company continued to grow. They built better cars, stronger engines, and even entered the world of marine engineering. Henry Royce became a legend, but he never stopped working. Even when his health declined, he continued designing from his home. He believed that perfection was not a final goal, it was a journey. He once said, "Strive for perfection in everything you do. Take the best that exists and make it better." Henry's life was proof that greatness can come from humble beginnings. He was not born into wealth. He had no fancy degree. He started with a dream, a toolbox, and a will that refused to break. Every car he built, every machine he designed, carried a part of his soul. He didn't just create a company, he created a legacy. As the years passed, Charles Rolls and Henry Royce's partnership grew stronger. Together they had created something rare, not just a machine, but a dream on wheels. The Rolls-Royce name was becoming more than just a brand. It was becoming a symbol of luxury, innovation, and trust. However, with great dreams come great challenges, and 1910 brought one of the darkest moments in the life of Charles Rolls. A moment that would change the company's path forever. Charles Rolls had always been a man of adventure. He wasn't only a businessman. He loved cars, speed, and flight. He was one of Britain's early aviation pioneers and believed that the future belonged to those who could conquer the skies. While Henry Royce stayed in the workshop perfecting the engines and the designs, Charles often traveled, spoke to the press, and pushed the boundaries of technology. He believed that machines, whether cars or airplanes, could take human beings to greater heights, both in the sky and in life. In July 1910, Charles Rolls made history by becoming the first man to fly a plane non-stop across the English Channel and back. The whole country celebrated. He was seen as a national hero. But only a few days later, during a demonstration flight at Bournemouth, tragedy struck. His plane crashed. Charles Rolls was killed instantly. He was just 32 years old. News of his death shook the country. People mourned. Newspapers printed stories of his bravery and vision. Henry Rayse was devastated. Even though they were very different men, one a quiet engineer, the other a daring showman, they had built a bond that was deeper than business. Rayse lost not just a partner, but a friend. And yet, even in the shadow of this terrible loss, he knew he had to carry on. The company was at a turning point. With Rolls gone, many wondered if Rayse could manage the future of the business on his own. But Henry Rayse was a man who had faced hard times before. He had grown up poor. He had worked long hours just to survive. He had fought illness and setbacks. And he had built everything through hard work, not luck. So he decided to honor Charles Rolls the only way he knew, by building even better cars. In the years that followed, Rayse worked harder than ever. He pushed himself beyond limits. Sometimes his health suffered. He often worked from his bed, designing engines and solving problems. His team tried to stop him from working too much, but he wouldn't listen. He had a mission. He had made a promise, even if only in his heart, to keep the Rolls-Royce name alive and strong. By 1914, the company was no longer just about luxury cars. The world was changing. War was coming to Europe. When World War I broke out, the British government turned to companies like Rolls-Royce to build engines for military airplanes. Rayse answered the call. He developed the famous Eagle engine, a powerful, reliable engine that helped British planes win air battles during the war. This was a turning point for Rolls-Royce. The war was terrible, but it showed the world that Rolls-Royce engines could be trusted even in the most difficult conditions. After the war, people respected the brand not just for luxury, but for strength and quality. Rayce's engines had helped save lives, and now Rolls-Royce wasn't just a car company, it was an engine company, a technology company, and a symbol of national pride. Meanwhile, Henry Rayce's personal life was becoming more difficult. His health was getting worse. He suffered from stomach problems and often had to rest, but his mind never stopped. He continued to sketch designs, test ideas, and guide his engineers. He became a legend in the company, a man whose quiet genius kept pushing the boundaries of what machines could do. In 1921, the company opened a new factory in Derby. This factory became a center for innovation. Here, the team developed not only better cars, but also world-class engines. Rayse believed in precision. He believed that every part of a car or engine should be perfect. Take the best that exists and make it better, he often said. If it does not exist, design it. One of the most famous results of this thinking was the creation of the Phantom 1, launched in 1925. It was a car unlike any other, smooth, silent, strong. People who sat inside said it felt like riding on air. It quickly became the car of kings, queens, and movie stars. But behind the beauty of the Phantom was Rayce's obsession with detail. He worked on the engine design personally. He tested every part. He demanded the highest standards. While the world saw glamour, Royce only saw improvement. He never felt satisfied. If a car was good, he wanted to make it great. If it was great, he wanted to make it legendary. He worked in silence, far from the noise of newspapers and celebrations. His goal was not fame, but excellence. By the late 1920s, Rolls-Royce had become one of the most respected names in the world. In 1931, the company made another bold move. It bought Bentley Motors, a company known for fast racing cars. Many were surprised by this. Bentley had been struggling financially, but its brand was strong. Royce saw potential. He believed that with Rolls-Royce engineering, Bentley could rise again. He was right. Under his guidance, Bentley cars regained their power and glory. But Henry Royce's health continued to decline. By the early 1930s, he could no longer visit the factory often. He worked from his home in West Wittering, sending letters and blueprints to his engineers. His body was weak, but his mind was sharp. Until his last days, he continued to design, correct, and inspire. In 1933, at the age of 70, Henry Royce passed away. Just like Charles Rolls, he left the world too soon, but his legacy lived on. The company he had built from nothing now stood as a giant. Rolls-Royce had survived war, death, and change. And through it all, it had never compromised on quality. Even after his death, Royce's spirit remained in the company. His rules became the rules of the factory. His sayings were printed on the walls. His way of thinking shaped a generation of engineers. People who never met him still followed his ideas. That's how deep his influence was. In the years after Royce's death, Rolls-Royce continued to grow. It played a key role in World War II, building engines like the Merlin, which powered the famous Spitfire fighter planes. These engines helped Britain defend itself and win the war. Again, the company proved that it was more than luxury. It was about reliability, strength, and national pride. But behind every great success, there are lessons. And the story of Henry Royce teaches us some powerful ones. He didn't start with wealth. He didn't have powerful friends. What he had was focus, discipline, and a deep desire to build something excellent. He didn't run after fame. He didn't quit when life was hard. Instead, he turned his pain into purpose. He believed that even a poor boy could create something great if he worked hard enough. The name Rolls-Royce is now written on airplanes, luxury cars, and even in space programs. But at the heart of it is a story of struggle, vision, and courage. Charles Rolls gave the dream wings. Henry Royce gave it strength. Together, they prove that impossible things become possible when passion meets precision. And so, as the world moves forward with new technologies and faster machines, the spirit of that poor boy who fixed street lamps still lives on. He showed us that you don't have to be born rich to leave a rich legacy. You just have to believe, build, and never stop improving. The early success of Rolls-Royce was nothing short of a miracle. What started as a meeting between a poor but brilliant engineer and a wealthy visionary had grown into a powerful name in engineering and luxury. But success never sleeps. It always asks for more. And for Rolls-Royce, the journey had just begun. Henry Royce, though tired and often unwell, refused to slow down. His body may have been weak, but his mind was sharper than ever. He had built engines that whispered instead of shouted, cars that glided rather than rolled. But his heart burned to do more. He believed that machines could be even quieter, even stronger, even more beautiful. Charles Rolls, on the other hand, had taken to the skies. He had become one of Britain's first pilots. He believed that flight was the next frontier. While Rayse perfected engines for the road, Rolls dreamed of the sky. Their paths had started to split, not out of disagreement, but from ambition. They both wanted to take the name Rolls-Royce into new worlds. In 1910, tragedy struck. Charles Rolls died in an air crash. He was only 32 years old. The country mourned. The company mourned. Henry Rayse was shattered, his partner, his friend, gone. It could have been the end, but Rayse did not stop. He threw himself into work, day and night. He redesigned engines. He solved problems that others said were impossible. He worked even when his doctors begged him to rest. For Rayse, building engines was life itself. Then came the war. World War I broke out in 1914. The world changed overnight. The British government came to Rolls-Royce. They needed engines, not for cars, but for planes. Engines that could survive freezing heights, that could keep men alive in the sky. Rayse didn't hesitate. He went back to the drawing board, and there he created one of his greatest inventions, the Eagle Aero engine. It became the heart of many British planes. It flew through ice and wind. It carried the country's hope. Rolls-Royce was no longer just a car company. It had become a name behind victory, behind power, behind progress. After the war, the world changed again. People wanted peace, but they also wanted speed, comfort, innovation, and they trusted Rolls-Royce to give it to them. In 1925, the company introduced the Phantom. It wasn't just a car, it was an experience. Silent, graceful, almost like magic. The engine was so quiet, people thought the car was off. It redefined luxury. And once again, Rolls-Royce stood above the rest. But behind the success, Henry Rayse was fading. His health was declining rapidly. He could no longer spend hours in the workshop, but he still worked from his home, from his bed. He kept a drawing board beside him. And even when his hands trembled, his ideas were strong. He trained new engineers. He passed down his beliefs. Whatever is rightly done, however humble, is noble. Rayse wanted every bolt, every gear, every inch of a car to be perfect. Not good, not excellent, perfect. His standard became the soul of the company. In 1933, Henry Rayse passed away. He was 70, but the legacy he left behind was larger than life. His name was on the most respected car in the world, but more than that, his spirit lived in every design, every choice, every whisper of the engine. Rolls-Royce did not stop after Rayse. The company faced new wars, new economies, new demands. During World War II, they again became the backbone of Britain's air power, this time with the legendary Merlin engine. It powered the Spitfire, the plane that turned the tide of the war. It flew faster, longer, stronger, thanks to the heart Rayse had once built. The company expanded. They moved into jet engines, turbines. They made machines for planes, ships, and even power stations. They were no longer just a car maker. They were an engine of progress, But challenges came too. In the 1970s, Rolls-Royce faced financial disaster. The development of a new jet engine, the RB211, ran into technical problems and huge costs. The company could not keep up. They went bankrupt. It shocked the world. How could such a mighty name fall? The British government stepped in. They nationalized the company, saved it, rebuilt it. But this time, the car business and the aircraft engine business were split. Rolls-Royce Motors became separate from Rolls-Royce plc. Even with the split, the car brand stayed strong. In the 1990s, it went through a storm of ownership changes. It moved from Vickers to BMW. And there were moments when it looked like the brand might lose its soul. But the spirit of Royce held firm. BMW respected the past. They invested in quality, craftsmanship, silence. They kept the magic alive. And under their care, Rolls-Royce cars became stronger than ever. Today, Rolls-Royce cars are not just vehicles. They are dreams on wheels. Made by hand. Built with love. Crafted with respect. And Rolls-Royce aero engines power some of the largest jets in the sky. From a small workshop in Manchester, to the skies over Europe, to the finest streets of New York, London, and Dubai. Rolls-Royce became a symbol of class, of quality, of quiet power. And at the root of it all was a poor boy named Henry Royce and a daring man named Charles Rolls. Two men who believed in excellence. Two men who met by chance. Two men who gave the world something more than machines. They gave it belief. Belief that greatness can come from small places. Belief that hard work, silence, and care can create something timeless. Belief that even after death, a name can live forever. Because Rolls-Royce was never just a brand. It was and still is a legacy. And that legacy began with a poor boy who refused to stop dreaming. The end.